What is going on, Raider Nation? It is JT coming at you with another episode of the Raidercast, your podcast for everything silver and black. Now, before you take out your pitchforks and your torches and stuff like that and say, oh, you comparing Tom Brady to Derek Carr, Tom Brady is a GOAT, Carr is sucks, he's awful, he's blah, 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 whatever. That's not the point of this video. I am not ever going to call Derek Carr the GOAT, never going to call him better than Brady. Unless Brady falls off a fucking cliff this season, Brady will be better than Carr. Most likely. After this video, I might try to show how he could be really, really good. I'm talking about Carr this season. But I'm never going to call Carr the GOAT. You'll never see me say that. However, I'm trying to present something, an argument that I saw be made on... I mean, it's not the greatest place to talk about something, but ESPN, NFL Live, or whatever it's called. But I saw this clip on Twitter, and I'm going to play it for you now, and then I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about today.
Aaron Rodgers, but I'm looking for Derek Carr to have the 2007 breakout season we saw from Tom Brady when he got Randy Moss. You're going to have Darren Waller. You're going to have Hunter Renfrow. And obviously now Devontae Adams on the outside. I think this is a year where he improves greatly on his 32 touchdowns that he threw in 2015. This is a guy that's going to be mid-40s come February.
Now that video was talking about who's going to lead in touchdowns, and he was saying that I believe it's Ryan Clark, said he thinks it's going to be Derek Carr. He's going to have a Tom Brady-esque breakout season. Now, I want to compare what Tom Brady was like before 2007 and also what Derek Carr is like before this season. I also want to remind everyone that Tom Brady was never considered the GOAT until obviously recently when he won, 6 Super Bowls, 7 Super Bowls, whatever. Before, obviously he won before 2007 3 Super Bowls. However, no one considered him the GOAT. Everyone thought, he was a product of the Bill Belichick, defenses. He was a great postseason quarterback, but not necessarily a regular season quarterback. And the stats kind of backed that up. Now, it's a different era at that time. He did lead the league in passing in, I think it was 2005, with only 4,100 yards. So it's obviously a different era of football. However, the stats definitely show a mirror between the two quarterbacks. So I'm going to show you guys what I found. Now, I took the averages of their seasons, pre 2007 and put out in average a season. So this is Brady, this is Carr. Brady's averages were 3,500 yards a season with 24.5 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and a 61.9% completion percentage. Then you have Carr, 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 65.1 completion percentage. As you can see, they're very similar stats, and obviously stats don't tell the whole story. Tom Brady was a very good top 10 quarterback of his era, but again, people considered him a top 10 quarterback of the time. He was not considered he was up there with, Peyton Manning. He was up there with Ben Roethlisberger. He was up there with, I believe, Philip Rivers was coming out. You had Drew Brees in New Orleans. There was a lot of good quarterbacks at that time, and he was considered to be arguably up there in the top 5 even, definitely top 10. But you had Peyton Manning taking that top slot. So he wasn't the number one quarterback at the time. There was other quarterbacks there. I mean, even had Michael Vick, I believe, was playing during that time, if my brain serves correctly. You had Brett Favre. You had a lot of quarterbacks. There was a lot of really good quarterbacks in the early 2000s. And Carr is also in an era where there's a lot of good quarterbacks that put up a lot of good numbers, but you even have a lot of quarterbacks that aren't considered great that also put up good numbers, which is the passing era and stuff like that. But my point is that they're both considered a top 10 quarterback, and I know I'm going to get to the differences later on, but these stats show that they're very similar quarterbacks in terms of actual talent. Brady is not a necessarily talented quarterback. He was never and still isn't considered one of the most naturally gifted quarterbacks. You've seen this combine photo, but it's his know-how of the game. It's his way he can master an offense and stuff like that, and really motivate his teammates, to really push through and stuff like that. That makes him the GOAT. that got them those Super Bowls and all those appearances and all those wins over the past 20 plus years. Derek Carr is the same way. He's very much a leader. He doesn't have the playoff wins at all. He doesn't have very much playoff experience. He doesn't have any of that. But he has that leadership. He has that ability to run an offense very well. Once he gets a playbook, he can run it very, very well. We saw that in 2015, 2016, and to an extent 2017 when he had a consistent offense. You saw that when Gruden was head coach, even though it wasn't a good offensive scheme, he knew how to run that offense and play it well. Now, there's another thing that comes into play when you're talking about the 2007 season for Brady, and I'm going to focus on that now. So what did Tom Brady have that made his breakout season happen, where he had an explosion in stats? So let's take a look at his stats. So just a reminder, these are his stats before, like on average before that season. He was only over 4,000 yards once. So let's take a look at his 07 stats to show just how much of a breakout it was. Look at that. 4,800 yards. It was insane back then. 50 touchdowns was a record held until Peyton Manning, 7-8 years later. 8 interceptions and a 68.9% completion percentage. What? That was an explosion. People were like, "Holy shit, this guy fucks." This guy is for real. Now, what made him that season so good for Tom Brady? Well, look at the people in the corner other than Tom Brady. You have Randy Moss, the number one wide receiver at that point in time. He was the best receiver on the field. Larry Fitz as well, and you had Tim Brown before him a little bit. You had Jerry Rice just recently retired and stuff like that. But at this point in time, Randy Moss was considered the best wide receiver at this point. He was amazing in Minnesota. He didn't do shit in Oakland because we were a fucking travesty back then. But when he came to the Patriots in 06, or I think it was 07 actually, his first season, he just destroyed the league. He was insane. He had insane stats. He was the best wide receiver by far. He had 1,400 yards, he had the same number of touchdowns, the same number of receptions. And who also joined in 07, well, as an official offensive coordinator, was Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels this was his first season as a full-time offensive coordinator. Beforehand, he was like an assistant. He was defensive coach or something like that, defensive assistant coach. This is his first season as an offensive coordinator, and Tom Brady has one of the best seasons by a quarterback ever. The Patriots have one of the best offenses of all time, and they go unfucking defeated in the 07 season, obviously falling to the New York Giants, thank God, in the Super Bowl. But they go undefeated. They have one of the best, if not the best offense of all time. And you have Randy Moss, Tom Brady, and Josh McDaniels to thank for that. Now, why am I talking about these parallels? Again, I'm not calling Derek Carr Tom Brady, but what does Carr have this season that is very similar to that? You have Josh McDaniels coming in for the first time. This is his first, obviously he's a head coach, not just an offensive coordinator, but he's a fucking great offensive coordinator still. He's been one of the best offensive minds of this, century so far. He has that 07 season. He's had the Pats be unstopped, really, really good on offense with Tom Brady this whole time. Obviously, the differences between Carr and the Raiders and 07 Brady at that point had 3 rings and a ton of playoff experience, and you also had one of the best O-lines in the league. They had 9 all-pros that season, and 4 of them were guards, or their offensive line. Carr doesn't have that. Carr also doesn't have Belichick, which it kind of matters because it doesn't, because we have Patrick Graham, who is a Belichick disciple in terms of defensive scheme. There's a lot of parallels between that. Obviously, parallels don't mean anything. This obviously could all blow up, and Carr has one of those worst seasons or whatever. But you also have Davante fucking Adams coming to the Raiders, who at this point in time is considered the best wide receiver in football. The only argument that you have that you could say is he isn't is Cooper Kupp, but even then, like I said, there was receivers back then that Randy Moss competed with for the number 1 spot, but he was widely considered to be the number 1 wide receiver, and so was Davante Adams.
this is the first season with Josh McDaniels and Devontae Adams, and you also have Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is just Wes Welker, 2.0 kind of. Why do you think the Patriots wanted him in the draft? He's like the perfect white, small, shifty wide receiver slot guy. They didn't have any great tight ends in the New England back then. They didn't have Gronk yet, but so they didn't really have the tight end in Darren Waller that we have. They didn't have, the only thing that they had over us, like I said, was an O-line and a pretty good run game. But regardless, you don't throw 50 touchdowns just relying on your run game. You throw 50 touchdowns because you're throwing to Randy Moss. You throw 50 touchdowns because you're throwing to Devontae Adams. Am I saying that Derek Carr will have a 50 touchdown season? Most likely not. But is it possible? Does the similarities line up where Carr can have his best season ever this season? Absolutely. Everything's put in place where, it's a very similar situation to how Tom Brady was in 2007. Not calling Carr Tom Brady because that's a ridiculous statement. I'm saying the similarities of the situations that Brady and Carr were in and are prevalent in 2022. Now, you can call me an idiot down in the comments. You can, whatever. You can say whatever. But in my mind, this is making sense, so I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. I've been kind of rambling a little bit at this end here because I'm trying to establish I'm not calling Carr Tom Brady. I would never, ever say that Carr is Tom Brady. But they have a similar situation. Carr has a similar situation that Tom Brady had in 2007, other than the fact that, the Patriots have won 3 Super Bowls at this point and have one of the best O-lines in the league. But Josh McDaniels is his first season with, the quarterback as a full offensive coordinator for this team. You have the best wide receiver in football coming to the team. You have the best tight end in football, which is something different that the Patriots didn't have back in 2007. You have a shifty, really good slot receiver in Hunter Renfrow that the Patriots had back in 2007 with Wes Welker. Do I think that Hunter Renfrow will have a Wes Welker season? Absolutely. Do I think Darren Waller will have a even better season than any of all their tight ends combined? Absolutely. Do I think Devontae Adams will have an even better season than Randy Moss? Most likely. I mean, he could definitely go over 1,400 yards this season. Will Derek Carr have a better season than Tom Brady did then? I mean, maybe he threw for 4,800 last season, so what's to say he won't throw for over 5,000 this season? Will he reach 50 touchdowns? I don't know. That's an almost impossibility. Patrick Mahomes has gotten close. I mean, there's people that have gone over 40, but even going over 40 is really hard. Do I think he goes over 30? Easily. I think Carr goes easily for over 30 touchdowns. Do I think he only has 8 interceptions? Probably not. Just because the O-line's going to wallop him and he's going to throw a really bad pick or whatever, but my point still stands. I think the similarities are there. I hope my rambling makes sense. I hope the thing I put together makes sense for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm on my way to 100 subscribers. I'm trying to hit it before the start of the season. Obviously, if I don't, there's not anything bad that's going to happen to me or anything like that. But that's just a goal I set for myself. But again, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, Raider Nation, and peace out.